Interrupting. No interfering. Stop it. Throw it to the end zone for Robinson. A touchdown.
We come to practice, we practice hard. We take it, we be optimistic, and we gonna win games, bro.
All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Douglas Show. In case you know, news is abundant today. Very excited to have with me to discuss all those things, Chad Ryan, and of course the legend himself, Doc Walker. Fellas, a new day in Washington. We've been waiting for this a long time. People said to me, and it's interesting, my brother said, well, we've done this once before when we brought in Shanahan. I think the big difference is ownership was never going to be what it needed to be for some of the very successful people that have been in this building to actually succeed. Fellas, I don't know about you, but it feels different today. The interview, the press conference with Josh Harris felt different today than it has in the past. Doc, for those of us that have been scouring through the desert for 20 years, how should the fan base feel today?
You got to feel however you want to feel. I'm numb to all of this because I'm older, and I've lived through so much of this, and I've learned that until you know who you have and what their work ethic is, you just don't know what you're going to get until game time. Because everybody says about the same thing. Nobody has ever come up and said what they weren't going to do. And so I'm like a battered spouse. I'm like, okay, so your promise is not going to happen again. And before you know it, so I'm hopeful that because the way the Harris Group operates, they're so tactical. It's not an experiment. It's not their first rodeo. And now for the first time, we started to talk about football people. Mm-hmm. And that's important because I love the analytics make sense. Everything surrounding it. But there's only 22 guys that go hand-to-hand combat.
Yep.
And you got to have people that understand the value of the offensive line, the defensive line, the line of scrimmage. And if I see another group on 4th and short going shotgun, I'm going to lose my mind. If we don't take the attitude that the Michigan Wolverines and the Washington Huskies will display later tonight, you may not get the yard, but I'm damn sure going to slam it up in there and you got to prove to me you can stop me. It's mano a mano. I can't trick everybody. Hocus pocus thing has gotten me to the point now I'm sick and tired of it. I'm not looking to be fancy. I'm looking to be effective. And yes. I'll take a bulldozer over a Ferrari. Because this is football. It's not NASCAR.
And that's what they tried to do this last year, right? They tried to turn Sam into a Ferrari, I suppose. Chad, it felt like, and we talked about this a bunch on the podcast, that Bieniemy and Rivera dumped Hal in the deep end and told him learn how to swim real fast. I think I get the concept. I don't want to go backwards too much because
my concept is 4th and inches, 4th and 1.
Well, yes.
Sam. I mean, every quarterback. Ask Peyton Manning. Ask Troy Aikman what their first years were like. They got punched more than this kid's ever been beat up. This line wasn't as bad as the results show. He held on to the damn ball. Can't make somebody throw. They throw instinctively. It's like getting your kid to be fast. He's either fast or he's not. I don't care what his track shoes are like, or how much you spend on personal trainers. It is what it is. If a guy can't do what you want to do, get to the next guy.
But they asked him
evident as soon as they put the kid in the game. and he made what appeared to be complicated. He made it look easy. So
Jack,
that's on them.
only Patrick Mahomes threw the ball more than Sam Howell this year.
Yeah, and Patrick had EB and Andy, and they weren't experimenting. They had a structure, and this kid's gifted. And he wasn't the first player in the draft. You know, we made a big thing out of it. I was so uncomfortable not wanting to kill Dallas because I need the second pick. I don't care if you had the first pick. If you had the second before, you're still in last place. It's not about when you get somebody, it's who you get. So Joe Jacoby's undrafted free agent. I haven't seen nobody better. So I'm just sick and tired of people trying to tell you what the game is going to be like on paper or on a computer. The game is played with. I want my big uglies with their hands in the dirt, moving forward, not in 2-point stances going backwards. All right? You can call me old school, ancient, whatever. All I know is this new stuff doesn't always work, not tested. The people that will be playing at the end of it, national championship guys right now, what do they have? The offensive line of the year was Washington. And who won it last year before that? Michigan. It's physical. It's a mindset. And you either have it or you don't. And every once in a while, you know, Ferrari will get in there. But other than that, give me the bulldozer.
So your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh to the Commanders would be?
I don't have any thought on anybody coming. That's up to the guys that they're hiring to get them to come in. You want a winner? Jim, I just want my guy. And I'm not taking anybody specifically because I'm not on the committee. And they don't think like I think. And I don't think like they think. I do know this. I don't want a guy running for Congress being my head coach. I want a guy like Belichick. I want my guys' press conference, you to hate them. They don't say anything. They mumble. They don't want to do it because every time you open your mouth, you give up trade secrets. It's impossible to discuss a game plan without you leaking information to the enemy. I love Belichick's press conferences. You know, give me that guy. You know, you can't even hear what he's saying. You don't even know if he's audible, right? That's what I want. You ever hear Pat Riley talk like when he was? No, he doesn't. You can't win running your mouth. You talk to your team. Us, you give us as little as possible because all of this stuff is classified. I don't want a guy trying. No, it ain't my style, man. My guy, he hated talking to me. Joe Gibbs, what quotable thing do you hear? He got mad at Buck Hands when Buck mentioned something about us being good. He lost his mind. He's a strategic thinker, right? He didn't have diarrhea of the mouth. I don't want that kind of guy representing my program. I want you to hate him. He ain't giving us nothing. Now, all of us, we love the chatter because we're in the chatter business.
That's right.
So anything you give us, we can recycle it. We can reprocess it. Social media. I mean, during this era, it's never been more important to say as little as possible because everything you throw out there is on social media. Boom, it's everywhere. It's traveled faster than we've ever had it in our lifetime. So I want a guy that's just not talkative unless he's in front of his team, period.
And Chad, you talk about chatter. To pull off the moves they did with Rick Spielman and Bob Myers, which apparently they've had for weeks, goes to show that it's a new day in Washington, twofold, that we hadn't heard about it yet. And Adam Peters declined interviews last year and agreed right away with Washington. Chad, that's what says it's a new day to me.
Yeah, well you're exactly right.
They talked about. Yeah. No. Look at the candidates. They're all vested.
You're exactly right. I mean, and getting on Bob Myers and Rick Spielman as part of the process, as part of that committee is huge. For one, it's Josh Harris signaling straight away, I don't have the knowledge to do this. I'm not pretending that I do. We never saw that with the previous owner. Like, that's a big ideological change.
Josh is not an egomaniac.
No.
What he wants to do is win. And it's an investment. Let's not lose sight. He's not the good humor man. It's an investment. Now, he knows he can do nothing and still make a profit, but he's competitive. So look at his club that he's associated with. He's trying to build championship environments. and he's willing to invest his capital in it. He's all in. So, and he got guys that have high IQ. No matter what, I've heard people go, "Oh, it's basketball." I don't care if it's pickleball. He's talking to champions in every field.
Yeah.
And all that matters is that you know how to win. No disrespect to anybody. I'm not hiring anybody that just got fired. I'm hired people that have brought a new awareness to wherever they are. Champions. Where's he pulling from? Warriors, Niners, Ravens. Pedigree.
Yes.
Pedigree. Why on earth would I hire somebody that just got fired for having a lousy team? So I'm gonna pick.
It is interesting to watch, though.
Somebody's yard. Huh?
I was just going to say, it's interesting to watch because if obviously the NBA and the NFL are very different sports, very different processes.
Yeah.
But you look at how he's handled the 76ers during his tenure. When he's brought in a new head coach, it's always been an established head coach. He hasn't given someone their start. So that's why I lean more towards, at this stage of the process, a Jim Harbaugh or even a Raheem Morris over a guy like Ben Johnson or Mike McDonald, because we look at what he's done previously to date. That's been the trend. Now, I'm not ruling it out completely. As we said, new ownership in the NFL runs differently from the NBA, but the established trend we've seen from Josh Harris is he goes with a proven entity rather than an unknown potential entity. So it'll be interesting to see.
And you'll miss some. You'll miss some guys. But if you look at the hardest project to me in pro football this year was Houston. And DeMeco Ryan. And they took a guy, he wanted to be there.
Yep.
He played there.
Yes.
He's from Alabama. He had the Niners. He doesn't know how to lose. And he got a rookie quarterback, the guy that somebody passed on, and he got him. I remember when Lovie Smith was booed and ridiculed because they didn't win, so they get the number. It don't matter what number you pick. It's who you pick. And then how you train.
And then how you develop them. Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole key. How much did we hear? All we heard was how much development is going on, yet they're in last place. So give me guys who strive to be the very best they can. If money is not an object, they get the best resources they can. The Commanders, strength and conditioning, their medical staff, that kitchen staff, they're champions. They roll. Yes. Everybody else is in last place. And so I want to reset the whole expectation level. It's not instant it's not overnight sensation, but yet look at Houston. Nobody, even the big wagerers, didn't think that was going to happen.
Nope.
And
Ron went to the playoffs his first year also.
Yeah.
Just for whatever that's
worth.
Well,
went to the playoff. Yeah, and he had Michael Jordan, and he didn't win it all.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just saying. That's like Pat Riley with Mike, but they don't win. No. If you get the GOAT, then you win. You got to win it all. Otherwise, you just fell short.
And I will say this about the new ownership group, and I think it's important, is that also the capital and money and resources of this group way different than I think what Snyder is. I remember, and Doc, you may be able to speak to this. I remember Chris Baker telling me that like they had 2 cold tubs before Robert Griffin got hurt. And then they finally put some money into what the facilities are. To me, that's what this group can do right away, is improve those kind of facilities to encourage free agents to come. I mean, we talked about the front office personnel that are now interviewing with this team, who we know obviously wouldn't have done that last year. But what they can do right now, while they're waiting for stadiums and all these other things that come along, they can dump money into the program right now. And it feels like they have not, that has not happened on a grand scale for this franchise in a long time, because I think it's become painfully obvious that Snyder wasn't interested in putting the money back into the program, which is a shame.
Can't fix what you don't know is broke.
It was spectacular.
You know it's broke.
It was spectacular under Snyder.
But this look at his hiring. Look at all the court. It's been chaotic. And so you look now, I would have been disappointed had this group not gone and seek the counsel of a man that represented the Golden State Warriors. Because I grew up in Southern Cal. They were awful.
Right.
And he's been in a flip. This is a flip. You got to flip something from worst to first. That's exactly what they did with multiple championships in Golden State. The 49ers. Oh, by the way, the fact that two guys are UCLA Bruins, that's even that I can't tell you how much that means. And so
I know you love it.
it's just, and then the Ravens. Who have you heard people talking about? The Ravens. I want to hang out with only 4 clubs that I even associate with in terms of how they run their organizations. They play tackle football. They tackle well because they're physical. Now, they have a lot of injuries because that's what happens when you hit. But even with their injuries, the Ravens have gone into games coming in, and it's a fight to the finish in playoff competition. Look at the Bengals. What a job. They lose a prodigy, and they're still highly competitive. You're not supposed to be a one-trick pony. You can only win with certain guys. No, systems are built to where they keep developing. They take a backup nobody had drafted, nobody wanted, and he's functional. The Cleveland Browns. That's what I'm looking for. Lost a quarterback. So what? They go out because they're smart. They evaluate talent. They bring in a guy who's been there before, and Flacco, and they got people around him. And what are they all based on? They run the football down your throat, even with Chubb out. Their defense is nasty because they get it. Nobody is in championship competition that's horrible on third down. Don't play the run worth a damn. You're not going to win. So this comes down to, what's your philosophy about football? So for me, Ravens, Steelers, Niners, Hawks, there's certain teams in there I go, yeah, if anybody's been around those people, I know how they practice, and I know they understand a physical game plan. And so that's it. So we'll see what happens.
And that's why getting the GM hire is so important, getting that right. But it's a little awkward at the moment because technically, the Martys haven't been relieved of their duties. They're still there and apparently are even helping with this process. I'm fascinated to see, the dichotomy of that. But you look at the names who have been – yeah, well, that's right. You look at the names who have been approached for interview. We already touched on Adam Peters, but Ian Cunningham out of Chicago. I think Chicago, they haven't really achieved much, but this is a guy – who around the league, everyone is saying he's the next GM in waiting. Like he's going to be a really good GM. The NFL runs this accelerator program for GMs and assistant GMs to get them up to speed on, running a football team. And apparently he took to that program like a duck to water. So Ian Cunningham's also a name to watch. But I think it's interesting to see whoever they end up hiring, how do they work with Josh Harris? And then what happens with Jason Wright? Because a lot of people, to go back to what you said at the start, Doug, like, Ron Rivera's been relieved of his duties. This feels like a new dawn. Yeah, a lot of people do, see this as closure, from the Dan Snyder era. But there's still Jason Wright here, and he may stay here. The Marty's technically still here. Eric Bieniemy still here. And we saw Josh Harris today say that he looks forward to involving Bieniemy in conversations moving forward. So I'm going to be really fascinated to see how it shakes out in terms of the GM hire and then who stays, who's currently here, because I don't think it necessarily is going to be a full clean sweep. There may be some holdovers.
See, but if we weren't involved in talk radio or podcast, I wouldn't care.
That's right.
Because it's just one day. But we need content. So we're like rats. We anything on the ground, we go get it. I could care less about all of that because it's going to be temporary or full. Everybody over there is smart. The Martys are smart people. I don't think they were allowed to do their job properly. I don't put any of this on them because they didn't have the power. You had a coach-centric environment, which is a joke. So I don't think less of anybody over there because I don't think any of them were allowed to do their job to the best of their ability. So I can't judge them. I'm not going to judge them. That's the Harris Group's.
I agree with you, Doc. And I think the same goes for Jason Wright. Smart guy, obviously, worked in many sectors, business included. I tell this to people all the time. If you think Jason Wright scheduled the picture in front of the porta potty, then I don't know what to tell you. Like that wasn't his purview. He wasn't in the parking lot setting up picture ops. I'm telling you, that was somebody else's job. And again, I think we realized that funds were limited. You know what I mean? I think they were shopping on a Happy Meal budget. So again, I could see Jason Wright at least making another year. I think they've kind of said, we're going to worry about business later. Right now, we just want to do football ops. And to me, that's awesome because most fan bases, I don't think, are worried about what the president of business ops is doing. I think that maybe is a we problem and not a them problem. I'm curious from both of you. I'd like to switch gears just a little bit. There is this notion going around, and it's picked up steam. And I got to admit, I've been kind of on this train also, where it's like, is it better to have a defensive-minded head coach or an offensive-minded coach? And the push I get for offensive-minded head coach is that if you are a defensive-minded head coach and your offense performs well, let's look at Houston. They'll probably lose Bobby Sloak this year. And I understand it's on the organization to develop and find out the new great decision makers and offensive play callers, but you'll be replacing that guy seemingly every couple of years. That's the argument for going offensive-minded head coach. The argument for defensive-minded head coach, of course, is let's get the best man for the job, and we'll worry about the other stuff when it comes. Let's not worry about losing a guy that we've not lost yet. I'm curious your guys' thoughts, where you stand on whether it matters or not.
Doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't matter to me.
Get the right coach.
Doesn't matter to me at all. I don't give a damn because I know that it doesn't matter what you are, offense or defense. What you have to do is you got to be able to excite the people that work for you, motivate the people that work for you. The enemy has so many of these qualities that I absolutely adore. You need somebody that makes people uncomfortable enough to get out of their safety zone and stretch themselves, give you that last ounce of everything. And you can't do that looking like you're a mortician. You got to, like Pete Carroll, it's not about age. It's about mentality. So it's the guy, offense, defense. Give me a special teams coach because he's a guy who has a relationship with the entire team. That's why I like John Harbaugh so much. Hardly ever everybody's trending. Offense, defense. If we didn't have social media, who cares? Give me the right guy, and he'll get people to get their job done or get rid of him. I get rid of everybody over there, everybody, and I have to rehire everybody one by one. They'd have to go through a process to be vented. Because really, you got to have a come to Jesus moment. Because you got some people over there with straight bank robbers. They all got paid, and that's the job? Last place that often? No, Slim. I'm not interested. I wouldn't shed a tear over anybody not being there, and I wouldn't be mad if he keeps them all. Because they all have talent. They needed a leader to bring it out of them, get the job done. I mean, we got Senior Bowl last year. Guys at golf tournaments. You in last place? No, dude. That don't matter. Position doesn't mean you don't have the right people. You get the right guy in there, you have to worry about that. No stone will be unturned. They're not worried about how hard you're practicing. Why wouldn't you practice hard? Why would he not be on your behind? He just left the Super Bowl and you were in last place. It's ridiculous what was allowed to go on over there. So, not my thing.
Yeah, and just to build upon that, I think back to, over recent years, going back a few years now as well, under Gruden included, when we had other teams come in and do joint practices with us in training camp, and just how stark the difference in the culture and approach to even practice and training was. Like, it's one thing for Bill Belichick and the Patriots to come in and to look like a more professional team, but the same thing happened with Bill O'Brien and the Texans. Like, Bill O'Brien's Texans looked like a better trained, a better led team than Washington at that point. And, Bill O'Brien's nothing special in terms of a coach, but that culture of success and that framework for enabling it was so evident around the team. And it's something that's been lacking from Washington for years. So the next coach has to put that in as priority number one, because everything builds upon that. Yeah.
We'll disagree on Bill O'Brien. I'm a Bill O'Brien fan because what he did at Penn State coming up. See, guys fight through tough times. He led young men, got the best out. Bill Belichick endorses it. If Bill endorses you, then you're all right with me. Whether or not he handled some things properly with his relationship with players, you're on point with that. But football-wise, he's a football guy. And let me tell you what, not only did Belichick, but so did the GOAT at Alabama. So anybody that Saban and Belichick endorse, count me in. Count me in.
We've talked briefly about the roster, and the coaching, and if coaching is the problem that maybe we thought it was, how are we to appraise the roster at this point? Do we have more talent that needs to be coached up properly, or have we been looking at the talent on the roster with burgundy glasses?
It's both.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
they may be very talented. They just don't play well on Sundays. So I don't. It's not my job to equate them. I look at the results. They're in last place. So you be the judge of that. It's so simple for me. It's all it's result based. You don't win, you're in last place. I mean, nobody would be safe with me. But my standards are obviously a lot different than the masses. And so I don't get involved. It's not my job. That's going to be the job of those people to evaluate people. I guarantee they're going to play harder and play better because they're going to be under more pressure to perform and not coddled. So that's the difference in that. I mean, it's like if you listen to the great coaches, everybody loves you after the fact. But during the fact broadcast, it's rugged. It's rugged. I mean, so anybody that's played the game at this level realizes that everybody's got talent. The separators are the guys that can get it out of you. You know, you can't compare everybody to Joe. Joe and Bob, those people are Hall of Fame people.
Yeah.
They're different. Not everybody can handle the ball like Kyrie Irving. Some people have different gifts. What you got to do is combine hide our weaknesses and accentuate our strengths. That's called game planning. If I know a guy doesn't do something well, why would I keep asking him to do it? That's my fault. We got a corner, first round pick, first series against Dallas. He couldn't have covered me. He's like, dude, where are your ball skills? You don't even. This could be cleaned up, but we lost the defensive back coach we had last year. But
that doesn't get talked enough about, Doc. That did not get talked enough about. That was
Harris,
the problem.
He was the offensive version of Bieniemy. He was a dog. You go out and watch this dude, and we lost him.
Yep.
You know, and again, since I no longer have to live through that, I'll let it go. Last night, when that game ended and that post-game show ended, I'm done. I no longer have to do that. Right now, I'm full steam ahead about possibilities, what could happen. Living through that horror, you guys can do it. I'm out because I've got too many other things going on. Hockey, hoops, I got so much. I don't have to talk about them in nauseam. And there's nothing to talk about except for new news that comes up, and then I'll be a chatterbox. That crew, I'm out.
Well, you said you started out this podcast, Doc, by saying you were numb to it all. What will it take to get you excited again? We got to get you excited, Doc.
Yeah, well, it'll be mid-season, by around October next year. If we're in the hunt, I'm excited, I'm thrilled.
Okay, how close is the roster?
Yeah. It depends on who's evaluating and what scheme they want. Everybody in the NFL can play. The question is, can you put them in a position to bring the best out of them? If we didn't change this roster at all, with the right group running it, you win 10 games.
With this roster,
it's the NFL. It's the NFL. The Bengals were garbage for 30 years. And my man, Cool Hand Luke, Joe Burrow, hit the scene. All you need, everybody in the league can play.
We don't have Joe Burrow, Doc.
No, you don't have him yet. You don't know what you have yet.
Okay.
We're doing this right now because it's a show.
Yes.
Otherwise, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even do this because it's January. It's not going to have anything to do with what happens in August and September.
That's right.
But again, we got to all make a living. And all I'm saying to you is that we have enough. We got players. Everybody has talent. That's how the Texans could go from garbage to first. D'Amico Ryan. What was it? D'Amico Ryan. Stroud. You get a couple of right different people, but the scheme. What Slowick has done with the offense, again, byproduct of the Niners system. You got to get people who've been around smart people and they learn from it. That's why the Dolphins, look at their offspring. Shanahan is the genius.
It's all Shanahan in the league right now, Doc. It's all Shanahan.
And it's the style of doing it. And if you're not following that and learning that's about, then you just really don't get it. You're making it harder than it has to be. And then again, do you believe in O-line, D-line? See, to me, the top 10 guys on every team, any team, is the 5 offensive linemen, the 4 defensive linemen, and the quarterback.
Well,
That's my
going into this
top 10.
offseason, yeah, like it's going to be interesting because two of those positions are going to be valued as a premium with pick number 2 in the draft and $80 million in free agency cap. We're going to be
and
splurging, we're going to be
wanna,
yeah.
But Bobby Beathard, I know he'd be trading down. He'd be suckering somebody up to come up like the Bears. You mentioned the Bears, and we were garbage until they played us. They hadn't won in a year. They come on Thursday night and beat ours. I mean, that's pathetic.
That was
and yet
it.
They kept on winning, and they're getting their quarterback together. They're on the come. So you just want to know, where's your program going, here or here? That's all you want, because everybody else is good too. Everybody's got what you got now. It comes down to wit, who wants to put in the time. Our guys, they worked their butts off. I was training camp. I was pleased. Man, these dudes, because it's the NFL. Now, did we do – well, you got a kid held the ball too long, but he's still a very talented young man. Maybe he'll overcome it. Maybe he won't, but he'll be in a competition. We give away jobs here. We gave people jobs. That's what happens. Make them earn it.
So, Doc, one of the things I keep seeing fans say is we have to take a quarterback. We have to take a quarterback. It can't be offensive line. It can't be anything else. It has to be a quarterback. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you said fan. If I'm sick, do I go to a fan or a doctor? I go to see a physician. And I'm not mad at fans. Be fan. But I don't react to none of that, because what does that mean to me? Fan said. You got to get the best in the business. It's a technique-driven league. Everybody we have there, if their fundamentals had been improved, they'd be better. But it's the philosophy. If it's 4th and inches and I'm in shotgun, I'm just in a bad plan. That doesn't mean we're not good. I just don't like the plan. Does it mean I'm right? Not necessarily. But you weren't right either, because you never got it. You couldn't get an inch for like 2 or 3 years, not just one guy.
That's right.
I can take you back to Titans. I can go back and back. You know how many times we have been stopped less than a yard determining it? Come on, man. That's because you don't practice a certain way. You haven't emphasized the fact that we're at our best when our hands in the dirt and we're moving forward. You got to believe that. If you don't believe it, then, okay, you wouldn't be in my program.
Of course, this Houston team doesn't win these games without C.J. Stroud. I mean, we could talk about the new coaching staff, but if that's Davis Mills, they're not. So I get the idea of trading back. I get the idea of taking offensive line. I'm with you, Doc. You build.
Well, it could be a possibility, yeah.
You build through the lines. I totally agree with you. But if you don't have a quarterback, it's all for naught. I mean, the Redskins had Trent Williams, Morgan Moses, and Brandon Scherf. It got them nowhere. You have to have a quarterback in this league, and you're hoping. God, you're hoping that you're not drafting number 2 very often. I mean, imagine, and again, Ron started this thing with the number 2 overall draft pick. They took Chase Young, and I'm not here to have a conversation about that. That's a different story. But when you reset a franchise, you have to go with a quarterback number 2.
We don't have to shy away from Chase. Hell of a talent. Hell of a player. Coach him up, and he's a Pro Bowl player. Make him do what he's got to do. He's a Pro Bowl player. They let him freelance. Young players should be doing what they're told to do, not what they think they ought to do. That's on them. Look, the military showed us a lot of lessons. They take you through a lot of things to save your life. They make you do things nobody wants. It's called PT. Everything they do, how they train to save your life. If you don't let people coach you, or you have people that are not qualified or good enough to get the best out of you, check yourself first. Don't blame him. Blame yourself. Fix yourself. I can always tell the guys in last place, they point fingers. Guy in first place says, my bad. So me. And change it. So.
And I think that, we've talked a lot about the head of football ops and the GM and the head coach. But Doc, I think you make a great point there. The coaching staff as a whole was lacking, and I'll put that on Ron Rivera, because he's the one that makes these decisions. He wanted that job to have all the power. He could have it He knows that. He's a professional. He can take the blame on the way out. But I also think it had a lot to do with the owner. I really do. I don't think they
Yeah,
were
well, that's
given
going to not
the
change.
resources to make it happen.
Yeah, look
I
at
got
Tim.
those guys.
You can't change the ownership. Rich people have the ability to do whatever they want to do. And you can still make a fortune. Still make a fortune. That's why this league is so up and down. Because not everybody that is a coach is qualified to coach. Every department in there, you should have earned the right to be given somebody's career. To me, it's just unforgivable.
Yeah.
To take a person or the short span, maybe 3.5 years medium of his career, and you give him somebody unqualified to take them to the next level. But that's what happens when there's nobody watching you. See? I mean, the person running the program of ownership, GM, is levels. No coach should ever be in charge of everything, in my opinion. That would never happen.
You've seen it. Guys like Andy Reid wanted a GM. I mean, they brought him, he made sure a GM came with him. Same thing with Pete Carroll.
Smart.
Has Schneider out there. Doesn't mean that Pete Carroll doesn't have 75% say, let's say. I mean, I'm sure he's got a huge voice. But you're right, Doc. Those checks and balances are there. I think most of us knew that coach-centric system wasn't going to work. Frankly, we know it because history shows it hasn't worked very well, but for like a handful of people. So God bless Ron. He wanted the power. He wasn't coming without it. I think on the way out, I think it's important to remember that Ron was saddled with some of the
Did you just
worst.
say, excuse me, did you just say he wasn't coming without it?
Oh, yeah. I don't think he would have come here unless he got all the power.
If you got fired, what leverage do you have? They didn't pull him off the boat of the championship.
Well, who else was? They weren't lined up to take the job, Doc.
Well, that shows you the idiot that hired anybody that's out of work. What leverage do you have if you're unemployed and you want me to hire you? You got no leverage.
And yet, Doc, he was the head of football ops.
Because the guy hired him had no clue about competitive athletics and team building. He called a novice. No, and I'm not mad at him.
Well,
he's not the only guy.
That was Joe
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
Look at this league.
That's who Joe Gibbs wanted as head coach. Right?
No,
Joe Gibbs signed off on Ron Rivera, right? I mean, that's the reason he got the job.
Well, that's what the room ran. I'm sure Joe liked him as a person, thought he was a good person, but that's not Joe's job. Joe's in NASCAR.
Well, yes, I get that.
Yeah,
and
he's a Hall of Fame NASCAR. Yeah. And plus,
incredible.
Nobody could match Joe's work ethic.
Yes.
Joe could have carried some people that worked at 7-Eleven because he did it himself. It's a big difference. Coach Joe Gibbs is blue collar.
Yes.
All right. He wasn't working on the short game. He was sleeping at the park 3 days a week. So let's get off that. Let's not do that. Don't disrespect him that way.
Oh, Lord, I didn't mean it's disrespect. I'm just saying that.
No, I know. It was right. That's what came out. But in the end, if Joe I'm going to vet it myself. I'm the guy paying the money.
Yes.
I'm the guy paying the money. If you're going to buy something, take the time to learn about it. Or have somebody you hired that handles that. Dan needed a director of football operations.
Yes.
And he never had anybody that the rest of the league wanted.
Well, I was going to say he got one, but he only got the ones that would listen to what he said, a la Bruce, because they went that, again, I don't want to go backwards too much, but I think it's.
No, yes, you do. You live in the past, see? And you guys don't understand. My New Year's resolution was that I'm no longer traveling in sewage. I'm out. It's over. It's January 8th. All right. I just did this for you because I was saying everybody wants to drag in this. Dude, I've just cleaned myself up. Okay. I got all the sewage off of me. I'm out. Okay. I'm moving forward. I'm losing blood. I'm losing brain cells right now because I'm traumatized by what I've just had to live through. And you guys keep dragging me back through that. I ain't that guy.
I won't do it. I won't do it anymore.
Talk about that.
I won't do it anymore.
I'm out. Yeah.
Chad, how many years it takes to turn this thing around?
Look, I mean, any rebuild typically is a 3 to 5 year prospect if it's a standard rebuild. Sometimes things happen faster, but that can never be the expectation. It's just, it's lucky, it's fortunate if that happens. But, building upon what Doc said, it's about getting the right people. It doesn't matter how long it'll take if you've got the wrong people. It's not going to happen. I think back to, it's become a meme online every time one of the teams that, Sean McVay or Mike McDaniels or one of the other guys who was on the coaching staff in 2013 is leading a team now. They always put that graphic up there, right? None of those guys were ready to coach a team in 2013, and the team's record that year was 3-13.
They won 3 games.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. So it's about having the right person at the right time.
But Kyle was. So
Kyle's probably the only one.
Sean
McVay was a couple years away, and
Kyle had done it in Texans. Kyle had taken the team to the playoffs, which Matt Schaub, if I'm not mistaken.
It was
no. Kyle was the guy. They didn't retain Kyle. They blew it, and the Niners are still reaping the goods of that. There's no way you can defend them. Okay, it was complete catastrophe, a competitive catastrophe. No matter how you put it together, it is what it is, man. And so to get out of it, the Texans just showed you, get the right guy as a head coach, and you got to get a quarterback that's the right QB. You might have him on your roster now, you may not, but you're going to have to get that. And then it starts the process. And then you got to we get no stops. Top 5 defense a year ago, somehow, some way, this year, bottom. So everything we're in the 30s. There's only 32 teams. So you were shot. Absolutely flunked every test. So the best thing you can do now is hope you don't have irreparable brain damage from your players, and then move on. Let it go.
Guys that don't want to be here, they can go quickly.
Yeah.
Doctor?
Yeah, that's an understatement.
If you don't want to be here and build something that's going to be a successful organization, why are you here? Like, we don't want guys who are just punching in, punching out, and collecting a paycheck. We want guys who want to play Washington football.
They're pro football players. They're here to make a living. It's about building your equity with your family. No, I get it while you do it. Everybody ends up on a bad team every once in a while. Some guys have it on their whole career. Look at Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer with the Cleveland Browns. This dude was it. But the teams are terrible. But he's a Brown for life. There's not a scenario that you can come up with that I can't match up with something I've seen that's happened. That's the benefit of being old. Because I've seen all this stuff, and these people rise and fall. They all, for the most part, rise and fall. I remember the Packers sweep, Green Bay. I mean, I remember talking to Coach Madden, God rest his soul. He told me about a seminar he went to. Vince Lombardi did 8 hours. 8-hour coaching seminar on one play. Power sweep.
On power sweep.
Power sweep. And it's just people, it's benchmark. And the guys that do it the best, I love watching the Dolphins now. I'm not a real Hard Knocks fan. Yeah, I don't need you to document the worst teams in the league. I lived with one, so I never was into that. But the in-season version has been refreshing for me to see current teams. They're not just picking you because you're awful. I mean, nobody really wants to do it. Nobody smart wants to do it. So that's why they go to the teams that are in last place, and they take the money, and they want the pub. But watching the Dolphins and Michael, I mean, that's a different game, the way they play it. It's like playing run and gun. I mean, it's something to go. But they've lost their 2 premier pass rushers. So it's not how good you are at 11. You got to be 53 strong. That's why I love the Ravens operation. You know how many injuries they incur?
Yeah.
Almost every year they lose all their backfield. They lose all their, and they're still in the game, in the play. You beat them by 2 or 3 in the playoffs. They're never whining about what's not good. They move forward. You know why? Because it's your job to get 53 strong plus a practice squad to know how to do what you need them to do. So you expand your depth so you take injuries better and you're able to move on. I'm telling you, the people, we had a dozen backup quarterbacks that played over the past couple of weeks. A dozen. And if you touch one of them, now you get a flag. So all this protecting the quarterback, and we got a dozen guys back up. So you got to be 3D. You got to be 3 deep. What Jacoby Brissett did, I was like, wow. Wow.
I was stunned when Aaron Rodgers went down week 1 that the Jets didn't call around trying to find somebody like a Jacoby Brissett. I mean, look at the Browns.
You talk about
Joe
low
Flacco.
IQ. I mean, he was
Imagine
there
if the
to-
Jets
I
had
mean, it's
Flacco.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the Cleveland Browns are showing you that their front office is smarter than theirs. See, that's why you got to be thick from the top to the bottom.
Yes.
Because the guys that make those decisions, they don't play football. They're not on the field. They're watching film and evaluating people. The most valuable asset you have are those scouts that go out and do college and they do pro. You're coaching. You got to scout everybody.
Yeah.
This thing about Harbaugh, I do not believe he was doing signs. To this day, you can't convince me of that. What he was doing was scouting your roster because they know that the game has changed. I don't need a high school kid when I can go get a kid that's backing up at Northwestern, and I think he's a talent. He's a former 4-star. You're not playing him. That's a different game. He's just ahead of everybody. Again, he won at San Diego, not San Diego State, University of San Diego.
That's right.
And then Stanford. He beat SC when SC was SC. This dude is a winner now. He may be a porcupine, but I love that. I love that because he's not going to do your podcast. I can tell you that right now. But what he's going to do is not.
He's more than
he's
welcome.
not going to. He's not going to embarrass the hell out of you on the weekend so you can talk trash with your friends because your team's going to win.
I agree. I'm not necessarily in for a retread. Sign me up for Hardball all day long. That's fine. I'm good for it. Doc, even though my Bulldogs aren't in the championship this year, I will be watching tonight. What will you be watching for tonight?
I just want to see the interior play. Who protects the quarterback? Michigan jumped all over Alabama, who I think next year will be in this game. They had pressure. You know, kid from Orange County, Servite. I mean, it's about he's a former wrestler, and I think wrestlers and players
Agreed.
Understands leverage. They're so much smarter than they were like 4 years ago when they got rid of the defensive coordinator. For God's sakes, it was awful. Now they're just better. And they're active. They got edge people, and you start seeing the graduation of premier edge people. That's what Ohio State has been so good at, producing edge phenoms and big water buffaloes in the middle, stopping that run, linebacker play. They're all complete. And the corners will be tested today because one of the great deep ball throwers we've ever seen, pinpoint. The thing that Washington has going for it is that when your quarterback is from the Big Ten, he's not going to be blown away. And Michigan respects him because he damn near beat him when he was in the Big Ten. They respect the hell out of him. Now you watching his arm, it blows me away. He looks like Stabler in terms of his accuracy. And they've got 2 or 3 NFL-ready receivers.
Yes.
I don't think Washington's getting this respect, but it's going to be a hell of a ball game. And the Wolverines have been that thing Michigan against everybody. That's the thing they got going for them. The spotlight's been on them. People feel like against them, so they're so galvanized. I mean, this is 2 rhinos going at it, and that's why, I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It was last year against Georgia that CJ Stroud really solidified, hey, I can be a big boy thrower. I don't think he went number 2 overall last year if he didn't have that game against Georgia. I want to see if Penix has the same kind of results against Michigan to skyrocket him up boards. I think the injuries worry people. I don't know. I know he's had the ACL done on both knees. I know he's got the shoulder. He's not a running quarterback. So I don't know about you, Doc, but the knees don't bother me quite as much as if he was, say, a Jaden Daniels, where you knew you were part of the reason you get in on that action is for the running. I don't think that's the same with Penix. I don't know that the injuries scare me as much, but I'm with you. He's got a cannon. You have a favorite for tonight?
If I had to go on it and whether or not I was going to get to eat tomorrow was based on it, I'm going Wolverines, as I've done the whole way through it. It's like last year I said the Bulldogs the whole way because the way Georgia's defense was a year ago,
Yeah.
it was impenetrable, and they had studs at every level. And this year, the graduation was so hard. They were still 29 straight. But when you lose that many seniors and pros, I don't care if they're 10 stars, they're still 19, 18, 19 years old. And you're not going to play in the SEC and play the big. There's only one or two teams that can get them even at that. But but Alabama's going to get you. It ain't going to, you're not LSU or Alabama because they're all cousins. They all hang out the same spots. You know, they harvest from the same fields. So that's what makes it so cool. But when I saw Stroud last year, I said, oh, my God. I said, and I'm not an Ohio State quarterback guy at all.
That's right.
Because it's too simplified to me, the cards, and
Yep.
and I don't blame them. They don't have anything to do with the NFL. They win more games than damn near anybody. They got a great system. Don't change for me. But when I saw him against Georgia, I said, oh, boy, this dude. Because he was doing it against NFL caliber defense. And he's not afraid. I saw him on Pat McAfee today. Good dude. Doesn't show you a whole bunch, which I like. I didn't even know the dude because he don't say a lot. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't want my guy being a Toastmaster. See, because that's just ends up now. I didn't even know this guy could talk. And I saw him tonight. He's sharp. Keeps it to himself, not an egomaniac. I guarantee you don't even have a social media account. That's my kind of guy now. Because the rest of these guys will go look at themselves and photograph and do selfies all day. I don't want that. We've had that here. It just makes me sick to my stomach. Grown-ass men, you know, seeing and checking to see if they got clicks. You win it all, you get all the clicks you need.
You will get all the clicks if you win it all. That is a fact. Chad, any last thoughts before we get up out of here?
Look, just for tonight, building on what Doc said, Penix is who I'm going to be watching. I don't think there's any quarterback in the upcoming draft class who can improve that stock more. Obviously, Williams and May, those guys are done for the year. Penix still has a game to go.
Kid at LSU.
Well, that's true as well. Yeah, and Daniels is he's up and about. He's considered a potential top 5, top 10 pick. But going in, a month ago, Penix wasn't. He could well be considered a top 5 pick by the end of tonight. My pick for tonight is Michigan by 1 point, though. I'm still on the Caleb Williams train. I really like him, but it looks like Chicago, just from today, looking at what their beat reporters are saying. They're probably going to move on from Fields and sit at 1 and take a quarterback, and that's almost definitely going to be.
Well, remember, it's like the draft. They're not going to tell you the truth. Everybody's sending people on wild goose chases. And listen, the baddest man on the planet was drafted, I think, 30th or 31st.
Yep.
So I don't care about the first. I don't get hung up in that. Lamar Jackson. And that's what the kid at LSU reminds me of.
Yeah, Doc, I think if anybody can get to that number 1 spot by the time we get to the draft, I think it would be Jaden Daniels is the only guy that gets to 1.
Be careful. And Caleb has all the talent in the world.
Yes.
He brought SC back from the dead. But you got to get the scheme. There's no such thing as being too talented, but that's for his coaches and people to deal with, not me. I just know now nobody is better off schedule. But I don't want to be off schedule.
That's right.
I want to be in rhythm. Houdini is great, but that means we're in trouble. I don't want to be in trouble. You know what I mean? I want to get back 3-step, 5-step, let the thing go. And then hand that bad boy off and let my big bulls take the game over. I'm not trying to put on a talent show, light show, all that. I ain't doing that. Simple, study, boring. I don't want you even to like us. But when you look back on it, they're going to be 12-3, 12. That's what it's all about. Win the game, period.
I am so excited to get to those days, Doc. And I think we will. I am still an optimist.
We got a chance
at heart. We got a chance.
Win the league.
It feels like we can breathe again. Feels like we're breathing again. Chad, I appreciate you. Doc.
Thanks,
you know
Chad.
you're the best. I appreciate
it, man.
We'll
Appreciate
do
you
it
guys,
again
man.
sometime. I appreciate you.
All
both.
right. All right.